I've noticed that we also take a lot of natural beauties for granted. And that's what I really wanted to talk about today, is natural beauty and the inherent natural beauties we have around us. Kenya is very beautiful. We have lots of natural beauties all around us. And the things I mean by that is, for instance, good skin. For instance, fresh air, long life. These are beautiful natural things. They occur naturally, and we just think of them as just there. We just think good skin came from my mother, you know? But maybe your mother ate a lot of fruits, you know? And there are a lot of other fresh air, a lot of just inherent things that we just take so much for granted, I feel. And I'm often accused of talking all over the place, and I stray off the topic quite a bit. But if you take anything home from today, I'd really like you just to remember that natural beauty is not something we should take for granted. It's really something we need to reflect in our lifestyles, that we appreciate the natural beauties around us. I think it's very important, especially now. Kenya, Nairobi we're changing a lot. We're creating new norms in this new metropolitan of a funky place called Nairobi, and it's a really nice vibe going around now. I love it a lot. You have people having cafe lattes in all kinds of cafes, and with Wi-Fi hotspots, people are always on their smartphones finding out where we're going to meet, where is there a Wi-Fi hotspot where we can meet. And I'm just saying, those things are good, and they're lovely that we form these new, they're now norms to us. But let's just keep in mind that there are other things that are also important, natural beauties, like, for instance, what we put in our bodies. So when you're in that Wi-Fi hotspot, don't order the stuff you've seen in the display since morning. You know, it's also very important that we remember what we put in our body and what we're eating. So by all means, I'd say just keep that in mind, with your latte and etc. And not to, people always get concerned when they hear of a nature guy going on stage, because they think this is a tree hugger who's going to give us some kind of guilt trip about how I threw my wrapper on the floor when I was in a hurry somewhere, And even as I was telling people of today and what I was speaking of, they'd say to me, "Oh, Uche, we don't have time. We don't have time for these things you're talking about." And I'd say, please make the time. It's important that you have the time to be conscious about what you're eating and what you put in your body and the food you consume. Just one example of how easy it is to take natural beauty for granted is in China. There's a pear that's indigenous to China. They've been cultivating it for over 3,000 years. 3,000 years this pear has been in existence. And what they did was they started using what's called a non-selective systemic pesticide, which in short it's the Bentley of pesticides. It's the new stuff. It's that stuff. But the problem with this pesticide is that it kills all dudus, even the good ones. And the problem with that is that bees die, and then what's happened in this particular province is they don't have enough bees anymore to pollinate that special pear that's been around for 3,000 years. It's no longer. And that's something I feel perhaps they took for granted. It's just something they found there. It's always been there. They assumed it will always be there. And now what they've had to do to sustain that economic sort of income that they have from this pear that they're famous for is people are climbing trees with a bowl and feathers and going from flower to flower, pollinating every single flower to get this pear. And that's an example I find, of how we can just so easily take things for granted, and then it's too late. I mean, I try to relate the example I try to think of it in terms of here, and I think, tea, coffee, those are major commodities for us. They're the number one foreign exchange earners for us. And if we use the same non-systemic pesticides, what if we had to pollinate tea by hand? No, really. I mean, how much would a cup of chai be if you had people going around with a jar and feathers going to every single flower? And it's easy to joke about it, laugh about it, and think, oh, that could never happen to us in 3,000, 5,000 years. But it can happen very easily. And that's what I'm saying. These are the natural beauties that are so inherent to us that we just take for granted. And please, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Even when you order food, or when you buy vegetables, for instance, I wanted to ask, I was curious how many people buy their vegetables in a supermarket, for instance. By show of hands, who buys vegetables in a supermarket? Not that many? Who buys vegetables from a market? Who goes to the market? It's okay. And or the mama mboga on the side, on the road, on your way home. I'd encourage that over the supermarket. But just think, how much plastic do you accumulate with your fresh? How much cling foil does your vegetables have? How much preservatives are laced in your food to the point where it's so poisonous you have to wash it? It's poisonous before you wash it. Is that fresh? Is that really fresh? I think it would be much better. We're so blessed. We live in a place where you can go to the market and that was probably picked that morning or the day before. These are natural beauties that are so inherent to this beautiful country we live in, and we just think of it as dirty, like that nature guy, And we shouldn't, because very soon, if we continue this way, we might not be able to have those things as we did. And that would be a great tragedy. I bet you even less of us grow our own food. Is there anyone grow our own food? Yeah. But we really need to do that because we can. And while we can, and these wonderful natural things that we have that allow us to grow food, by the way, the equator has the most sunlight anywhere on Earth. And also Kenya is very, very fertile. So we are very blessed to be able to grow our own food. Other people can't. They need the cling foil. They need the apple to arrive in lots of cling foil to them so that they can have an apple. We can grow it. And we all have shags. Many of us have home, ocha, the village that we're all running away from. And village is this place where, the ancestral home is this place where we were dragged there as children. Our grandparents, they call it home usually. But we had to be forced to go there. And you'd even make a point of letting your parents know how much you don't want to go. I remember I used to sulk on purpose to let them know, my weekend is totally being messed because I have to go to the shags or, the ancestral home. And it was very interesting for me when my friends who are not from Kenya asked me, what does it feel like? They were like, gee, wow, what does it feel like to have this ancestral home? And I'd never, we don't think of it as that. We think of it as that muddy place I'm forced to go to, and it's like almost like you have to sacrifice comfort and pleasure to go to this place, to show appreciation for family or tradition. And then this sacrifice, you can only keep up so long. There's only so long you can keep up this hard thing of going there. And it gets reduced from holidays to weddings, and then from weddings to funerals only, strictly. I'm only going to go there and then again, of course, when it's your funeral, people usually, at the very end, you have to carry me there, dead. And then that's when people, that's how we get taken there. And these are the kind of norms, these are the kind of associative patterns that we're forming that I find down the line could be very detrimental. If you take, for instance, other parts of the world, we see, for instance, how people identify with what they call home, or, some people, they no longer have what they call their ancestral home. And we see it all on TV, we probably like it a lot. You see people saying, West Side, I'm West Side till I die. And they've got tattoos of the street they live on their heart, all over their body, all kinds of ink, to represent who they are. And I'm wondering, when are we going to be saying, Westlands till I die, Because that's where we're going with our... Don't get me wrong, I have nothing... Please drink all the latte in the world. I sell coffee. I want people to drink a lot of coffee, but these are the things those are the norms we'll form. If not you, your younger brother, and the people who see what we're doing now, that's how it happens. And just please keep in mind, these are lots of lovely, lovely, beautiful things we have that we shouldn't just take for granted. And even your ancestral home, Ocha, plant a tree, plant a fruit tree. Next time you're there, it's so rewarding to have, to be able to have something that you've invested love and effort into that'll give you back and will give the people to follow after you back. If you don't have this gishagi, that as an ancestral home, I'd encourage people, we can all save money to buy a plot so that our next of kin might have that privileged life of being able to go to the home, the ancestral home, back to the mother place, But, and that's a good relationship. And if we form the kind of norms, and if we encourage people to be excited and enthusiastic about going to your ancestral home, I believe it'll change things for the future, looking forward. And that's really, in essence, really what I'm trying to say. In the things that we do, in the lifestyles we lead, let's try and reflect our care for our environment, our bodies, the people we love. Yeah, I was afraid it might be a boring message, because, I'm the nature guy and I'm telling people off, but I just subtly want to nudge people to go in that direction of planting your own things and just being involved in your general overall health. Even if it's a mamamboga and you don't have the time to go pick up a djembe or something, you could still have that relationship. Create dialogue with the person who's giving you food. Ask them, when did you pick this? Where did it come from? Things like that. Show concern in the way you live your life for the environment and appreciation of natural beauty. And that's really what I wanted.